for Fitness Forum pre and post pregnancy exercise. We've got me, TC Fit trainer Michelle, also TC Fit trainer Kelsey and Kendall on the call. Kelsey's the mom of 2 young boys, and Kendall has a daughter. Is Olivia 2 now, Kendall?
She's 2.
Great. So both personal experience as well as professional experience there. And we're excited to welcome special guest Alyssa George. You may recognize her from past pelvic floor presentations at General Mills. And Alyssa has earned her doctorate in physical therapy with specialty training in orthopedics and pelvic therapy. So she spends her work hours at Motion Physical Therapy in St. Paul and treats a variety of conditions for both men and women's pelvic floor health, also groin and low back pain, just to name a few of those areas of specialty. And we're really excited to have her share some of her expertise today on pre and postnatal exercise with all of us in the viewing audience. And this is an open forum, so please feel free to unmute or add your questions to the chat box at any time. There's no bad or wrong questions when it comes to this type of discussion. And if you're wondering, someone else is likely wondering the same thing too. So jump in at any time. And with that, Alyssa, I'm going to turn it over to you with just kind of an opening broad question. Why is it important to continue moving, or what's the value of continued movement during a pregnancy?
Yeah, so they've looked at some outcomes in pregnancies and found that, by continuing to move and stay active and healthy, it does help improve pregnancy outcomes. There's a lot less gestational weight gain, so the mom gains a lot less weight, which is really helpful for just, labor and delivery, lower rates of C-section, less gestational diabetes, less incidence of preeclampsia. So just a lot of reasons that they really do encourage moms to really stay as active as you possibly can throughout pregnancy for many different reasons. But then I think the other big part is just mental health too. I think it's really important to just keep yourself, as healthy and happy as possible throughout this very, there's so many changes going on in your body. So I think just trying to keep yourself as happy and healthy as possible is really, really important.
And you mentioned changes in the body. Are there specific adaptations that should be considered for each trimester? Or I say trimester just because that's what we commonly think of as the progression, but other things we should be thinking about throughout the pregnancy?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is everyone's an individual, so it's going to depend on your own body as far as how fit you were, how active you were prior to pregnancy. They usually recommend you can stay continuing to do those activities during pregnancy as long as you're listening to your body, things are feeling good, and you're not having any pregnancy complications that would put you in like the high risk category for any reason. I think the biggest thing is like hormones are changing pretty rapidly starting right away. So, some things can, for each person it's different, but some things can start to change pretty quickly as far as people might start to notice some aches and pains in their backs and their pelvis just because of the relaxin hormone that kind of kicks in pretty quickly right away in first trimester. But also you just sometimes don't have the energy, or you don't, you have a lot of nausea throughout that first trimester. So a lot of people just don't feel really that great about exercising. But I think that's also one of the reasons to stay active, is it can actually help with minimizing some of those early trimester symptoms. And then as you start moving into like second trimester, they are recommending not, be cautious about laying on your back. So like any exercises where you're laying on your back starts to get a little bit more important past like 16 weeks, just because the weight of the uterus and the baby could potentially put a little bit of pressure on a big blood vessel that could cause a lot of dizziness or nausea or lightheadedness. So if you feel those symptoms when you lay on your back, then you would want to modify exercises going forward. You can either do that by putting a pillow behind one side of your back, or trying the exercise in a different position, or being in a little bit more of a like semi-reclined position, or just avoid it altogether. But if you don't feel those symptoms, I think it's generally understood that it's okay to do the exercise. Maybe it's a quick set of bridges or something, but you just don't want to necessarily stay in that position, especially if you're feeling symptoms. Yeah.
Kelsey, I'm going to jump to you as a group fitness instructor, and knowing that we can really gain some motivation from exercising in groups. What are you recommending for moms who may be trying to participate in class or start a prenatal exercise routine?
Yes. So start easy, and like Alyssa said, pay attention to your body. Perhaps, I would suggest, and what I've done with my clients, and Alyssa, jump in if need be, and Kendall, but I usually have them do a low load type movements and maybe higher reps with weight. Continue to breathe. You don't want to hold your breath in general when you're exercising, but specifically when you are pregnant, you need to remember to breathe and not hold your breath. Monitor your exercise intensity. So I know they used to say back in the day that you don't want your heart rate to go above 140 beats per minute, but now they're more leaning towards the RPE chart, which is your rate of perceived exertion, and just paying attention to how you feel. So if you were fit before you got pregnant, and going above 140 feels okay, you can still, you're not feeling lightheaded or dizzy or anything like that, then you should be okay. But I always like the RPE chart 1 to 10 to kind of monitor your exercise intensity. You might also want to consider a longer warm up or cool down, just to, get your blood flowing and whatnot, and make sure to prevent the dizziness. And then with summer coming up in the Minneapolis area, just being cautious about exercising outdoors in the extreme heat, or if it's really humid, stay hydrated and try to stay cool whenever possible.
I have a question on the RPE chart. So if you're not using the 140 beats per minute, then what number on the RPE chart would you target or not want to go above for exertion?
Sure. Great question. So generally, I would consider number 1 to 3 to kind of be a good warm up. And then, getting your heart rate elevated and whatnot, getting your body mentally and physically ready for exercise. And then 3 to maybe 5, maybe 6 could be more of a longer endurance type workout. And then if you get to 6, 7, 8, 9, every body is different, but the higher you go, you're not going to hold that intensity for a long period of time. So if you're doing interval training, you can spike it up to 8 or 9. I would maybe avoid, going full all out. And Alyssa, chime in, I would maybe stay away from the 9 to 10 range and just keep it below that, just to be safe. And it all kind of depends on your previous exercise regime and whatnot, and how currently fit you are. Does that help?
Yeah, that helps.
Okay, good.
Kelsey, maybe
And
to help. I was just going to ask, with that RPE chart, sometimes we say around 7 and 8 is where you're going to be. You can still talk, but not hold a full conversation without having to pause and take a breath. Would you agree with that? Like, that's kind of that 8 range is where you're still able to talk, but not full sentences.
Correct. Like it would be hard to hold a conversation with somebody exercising by you, because you would have to take longer periods to breathe and whatnot. So yeah, that would be a good indicator as well.
And I was just going to add, during pregnancy, you are out of breath a little bit more. So taking longer breaks in between sets, and your heart rate kind of spikes up a little bit higher too, a little bit faster. So in between sets, maybe taking longer breaks. If you are getting your heart rate up a little bit higher, again, if it feels okay, I think that's fine. But again, maybe taking longer breaks to allow yourself to kind of catch your breath again and bring your heart rate back down just a little bit.
True, especially as you get bigger.
Kelsey, you mentioned that getting bigger, that other physical change with pregnancy. Let's do a kind of a quick spin through. Alyssa, what are some common discomforts that come along with some of those body changes, and ways that we can help minimize that discomfort that occurs during pregnancy?
Yeah, I think the biggest changes are really happening kind of in the midsection. So, and anywhere it can be like shoulders, neck, ribs are starting to kind of feel some of that postural change. So I like to, there's definitely a lot of good movements in like prenatal yoga classes that are kind of helping to just open up, or kind of help to encourage the body to open up and do what the body is trying to naturally do. And so I think, a lot of good stretches for the neck and shoulders and upper back are really helpful, as well as good strengthening exercises for like the muscles between your shoulder blades, just to help kind of bring that posture into a little bit better alignment, and not let your body kind of just give in to the weight that's obviously happening very much in the front of the body. And then that, all those postural changes definitely cause a lot of discomfort in low back, hips, pelvis, could be SI joint or pubic symphysis in the front. But a lot of those discomforts can be helped by certain stretches or certain modifications to posture, whether it's sitting or standing. And then just there's a lot of good stretches that can really help to just, like I said, encourage the natural process of the body and what it's trying to do.
I have a few TC Fit resources for some ideas on pregnancy workouts. Kelsey, are there any resources you want to share, or tips for the time side of things? I'm hearing a lot about, some fatigue. You might not feel like there's as much time in your day to just push through those high intensity workouts. Maybe resources or things that have worked for you.
So taking advantage of outdoors, getting outside and just getting some fresh air and vitamin D and taking a walk, that's always very beneficial. And, start easy and slow. Like I said, try low load core type exercises, and wait till you've been cleared from your doctor to begin or continue an exercise program. And I'd say just be kind to your body. You're growing and developing a tiny human. So just know that things will feel different and won't be the same, but it's the miracle of life, I guess.
Kendall, any additional personal experiences or exercises you want to mention?
So it's funny because I actually did see Alyssa for physical therapy for pelvic health while I was pregnant. So that was very helpful. I had a lot of SI joint pain, and specifically, I'm a personal trainer, and I push my body, and kind of, exactly what Kelsey was saying. It was hard for me to slow down, and so I was continuing with lunges and things that were offsetting my hips, and the relaxant did not enjoy that. So yeah, I had some pretty bad back pain, but Alyssa helped a lot with that and gave me some exercises, and it did get better. And I did have to learn how to tone it down a little bit and listen to my body.
It sounds like it's a learning curve for sure.
Oh, yes.
So we talked a lot about prenatal and that during the pregnancy. How about postnatal? What's a realistic timeline for returning to exercise? Alyssa, I'm going to pass that off to you.
Yeah, this is a really good question I get a lot from people. And I think there's a lot of mixed messages out there from different sources. So I think it's a really good one to discuss. And the biggest thing I want people to understand is that it's okay to start really gentle stuff early on. So in the first few weeks, you can go for walks. You can start some really gentle deep breathing exercises and trying to find and build awareness of your pelvic floor again, because a lot of times that is really, it kind of goes offline. Your pelvic floor just, if you deliver vaginally or C-section, a lot of those core muscles are just kind of not what they used to be. And it's really important for our brains and our nerves to kind of reconnect with that area of our body. And so you can do that really easily and very gently with just some, deep breathing exercises and then really gentle pelvic floor contractions. And you can do that for the first few weeks. And then usually people have like a 6-week follow-up with either their OB or midwife. And that's when they kind of say, okay, you're healed. You can go back to doing all your activities. And I think that message gets a little bit misconstrued, and people are thinking, okay, I should be able to go running now. And I think what's really important in that time frame is that you're definitely listening to your body. And it's not that realistic for everyone to be able to just jump into running again at 6 weeks postpartum, just because there's still a lot of body changes that are going on. There's still a lot of weakness. There's still a lot of, hormone changes that you just have to be really aware of. And I think if it is your goal to get back to running or high intensity interval training, that you should really be more focused during that time on just really specific strengthening and reconnecting with your pelvic floor and your core, and not trying to do too much too soon, because it can backfire, and it can also just be very frustrating if you try too soon and then you get injured and you're obviously probably not sleeping great, and it's not the time to really be pushing yourself too much. But I think the listening to your body should be a little bit more of your mantra. And some people can get back to running at 6 weeks and it's fine. And I think it's just a very individual thing as far as what your body can handle. And when I say listen to your body, you really want to pay attention to any sensations of like pelvic pressure. If you feel like heaviness or pressure down in the vaginal or rectal area, that's an indication that your body's not really balancing the pressures very well. And you also would want to watch out for any kind of leakage, whether it's urine, gas, or stool. That's also an indication that your body's just not handling the pressures well. Or if you're like holding your breath because you just can't find the strength in your core, that's another like compensation that people will use just to try to, give themselves a little more stability. But all of those are things that if you're noticing yourself doing those while you're exercising, that would be an indication that the exercise or the thing you're trying to do is probably too challenging. So you should try to modify it in any way that you can, make it a little bit easier and see if you can tolerate it that way. And then if you still can't, if you still feel pressure, or you still feel leakage, then I would back off and just wait a little bit longer before you're really ready for that.
You mentioned leakage. Can you just give us an idea? Is there a normal, or when should we seek assistance for trying to correct that situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's very common postpartum. So, and some people it just resolves on its own. So I think it's okay to wait a little while, but if you're concerned about it, if it's really bugging you, then I would reach out as soon as possible. Like, it could even be before the 6-week appointment with your OB. You could look at, making an appointment with a pelvic floor therapist just to so that they can give you a little bit of guidance on how to start the process of strengthening those muscles back up. But I think it's very individual as far as, which person is going to have the leakage just resolve on its own and which person is going to need a little bit more intervention. And it's just kind of a personal preference as far as when you seek treatment. I think it's just important to know that there are options out there. And I think that's the biggest take home is like, there are options. Reach out when you feel like you need it. And it's not something, yes, it's common, but it's not normal. And it's not something that you just have to live with because you had a baby.
And if someone wanted to come see you, Alyssa, I can share the Motion Minnesota website. Should they normally check in with their doctor first, or could they make an appointment right away?
Either is fine. In the state of Minnesota, we can do like direct access. We don't necessarily need a referral from a physician, but some insurance companies do require it. So it kind of just depends on the insurance. But yeah, they can definitely just make an appointment on the website. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. And we hear a lot of postnatal, how do I lose the baby weight? Kendall or Kelsey, do you have any suggestions that you share with your clients?
I do.
Yeah.
It takes 9 months to grow a tiny human. It will not just all fall off in even maybe 9 months. And it takes time. Your body's adjusting. A lot just happened. So again, this is where the be kind to your body comes into place. And whether you're breastfeeding or not, sometimes you hear, oh, well, I'm breastfeeding, I can eat whatever I want, and the weight's just falling off. Well, I'll tell you what, that did not happen to me. I held on to everything until I was done breastfeeding. So again, every body is different. And like Alyssa said, just get the okay from your doctor before starting to move again. And I'd say involve your child in exercise. Go for walks, go to the park, do a stroller exercise class or something, and kind of make it fun. But it does take time.
Kendall, any final notes you'd like to add today?
Well, just on that note, also, not comparing yourself to someone else and their, journey back to, and I don't know if there's even getting back to your body that you once had before, but, just like Kelsey said, during breastfeeding, people have different experiences. Certainly social media does not help, seeing women all of a sudden get back to like what they call a normal life. And so again, just not comparing yourself to other people's experiences with it, because everyone is going to be a little bit different.
Alyssa, as we come to the end of our session today, any final thoughts you'd like to share with our moms to be?
Yeah, I just echo what Kendall said is, having that ability to not compare yourself to other people, I think is very important, because everybody's different. Like Kelsey said, every body is different. Everybody's experience, is different depending on what, genetics, and then also just how fit they were going into pregnancy, age, how many babies they've had. There's just so many factors involved that you can't expect yourself to have the same experience as someone else. So be kind to yourself.
Well, thank you, moms, for sharing your professional and personal experiences with us today. And please, anyone who's out there watching this video, please feel free to share your feedback or reach out to any of our staff at fitness.center@genmills.com. And we look forward to seeing you all at our next fitness forum, spring training on April 21st. Or we'll see you in class before then. So have a good one. See y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.